the importance of having an emergency planning for your office, for your workplace. I have talked to you about the importance of having an emergency planning for your home, for your family. It is quite similar, but it is also just as important and vital for your workplace. Now, would you feel safe if you know that your employer, your boss, has an existing updated emergency plans in place, updated regularly, in case something happened, natural disasters, major fire, earthquakes? Would you feel safe? I would. So it is very important that we have, if there's no such plan in place, then it is important. It is important for us to persuade our boss to install one. First of all, I want to tell you the other reason why we should have such plans in place. Number one, up to 40% of businesses affected by a natural or human-caused disasters never reopen. Never reopen. So for the survival of the business, this is important. And the source is from the Insurance Information Institute. Number two, customers expect delivery of products or services on time. If there is a significant delay, customers may go to your competition. Number three, insurance is only a partial solution. It does not cover all losses and it will not replace customers. Now the question is if there is insurance in place. As you know, there are some small businesses, because of lack of resources. I know some of my friends, or at least one, he's a business owner, and sometimes he struggled because especially after 2008, the economy, the consumptions, and then everything goes down. So, he talks about some time back, he said, I'm going to cut insurance because, to survive, it's like, should I have apple or oranges? So, but they are not as important as the survival of the business. So, if there is insurance in place. I'll give you an example. If there's a major fire in the Charles Schwab building, I, as a customer, let's say, I had planned, 2 days ago, I want to come in this morning, I want to call Charles Schwab, my broker, hey, I want to buy X amount of Cisco system stocks. But then, of course, I also heard that, there was a fire over there. You're wondering, maybe I should call somebody else. Maybe they will let me buy the stock, but what if something goes wrong with the stocks, it was going down suddenly because of some really bad news, very negative news. I may want to sell the stocks right away, to cover my losses. And then maybe I would be thinking, maybe I should call somebody else. There's a major problem there, maybe there's equipment problem, computer problem, whatever. And lastly, according to the Ad Council survey, that nearly 2/3, 62% of respondents responding to the survey said that they don't have an emergency plans in place in their business. So that is a huge number. So for your sake, my sake, make sure you know that you are aware of whether there's a plan in place or not, because it's important. Of course, lastly, I need to tell you, your safety, your co-workers' safety, the staff safety is the most important thing. That's why we have to have a plan in place. And then now I've told you about the reason why we should have such a plan. Secondly, I want to tell you about what is a typical plan that people have. A goal, the typical goals. Number one goal would be protect the safety of employees, visitors, contractors, and others at risk from hazards at the facilities, and plan for persons with disabilities and functional needs, which we have talked about earlier. the safety, which is number one. Number one, very important. Number two, maintain customer services by minimizing interruption or disruptions of business operation. Number three, protect facilities, physical assets, and electronic information, such as your data. If I'm working on a very important project, something happened to the building where I work, you want to know beforehand, hopefully, that the company systematically, regularly update all my files so that I could have access to it. In case I can't come back to this building to work tomorrow, there's another place. Or at least there's another place, second location where I can have access to those files that I've been working in. Maybe some companies have used the cloud, or they have second location where they can store those backup files. This is important. And then the next one will be to prevent environmental condemnation. Assuming that, let's see, if this is a chemical factory and there's an earthquake, everything is broken down, the furniture is all over the place, there was a fire, windows are all shattered, what about those chemicals? What happened if there are leaks? Do you want to know beforehand to protect yourself and maybe your neighbor, your community as well? And lastly, to protect the organization's brand and image and reputation. Because sometimes news travel fast, and sometimes people talk, gossip. They may not be portraying, they may not be passing out correct information of the company. Charles Schwab, something happened to it, maybe the damage was minimal, but then, what was being talked about out there is that people say, well, the whole computer system was down. Everything is destroyed, so don't call them. Buy your stuff from somewhere else. So that would be very negative, is it not? Now, I have talked to you about the importance of having an emergency plan in place at work to protect yourself, your co-workers, and also for the survival of the businesses. Let's remember one thing, that the emergency planning for a home is not that different than the emergency planning for your businesses. Such as you need to have a second location. If the whole building is destroyed, all the employees need to, or will be told to get out of it right away. So where do we go? So we wanted to be able to be assembled in some place where everybody knows where to contact, where to meet everybody else. And there's also a communication channel we need to be able to establish ahead of time. And lastly, it is important for our own safety as well as for the survival of businesses. We need to be reminded that we have to have this kind of plans in place and updated regularly. We need to have files updated, back up regularly. And I cannot stress how important it is. Thank you very much.
Robert, do you know if your workplace has an emergency plan in place?
这个我不太清楚，但是我觉得真的很重要。办公室的那个安全，每个员工都需要知道，不然有什么事情的时候，你应该知道在哪个方向跑，不要跑了，不然那就死掉了，是吧？好。
If we could all take 1 minute to evaluate Marco's speech.
好，先给你们1-2分钟，写下来你们对 Marco 的 speech 有什么看法？
Does anyone need additional? Oh, sorry. Are these? Oh, there are more forms. Right there. People need more forms.
Or okay.
Okay.
I will.
好，再给你们1分钟啊。Here's 1 minute. Okay.
Sure. So, Jill has just volunteered to be our grammarian for the day. Let's give her a round
Great.
of applause.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Allison. And this is her third speech, also, Get to the Point. And the title of her speech is 7 Billion Heroes. To evaluate her speech is JJ. JJ, if you could explain some of the points that you'll be evaluating her on.
Yes, so Allison is also doing project number 3, and the objectives are to determine the general and specific purposes and to organize your speech and control your nervousness.
Okay.
All right, so welcome back.
Thanks. So before I start, just I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to do this in English. It was originally supposed to be in Mandarin, but I asked it to change at the last minute, so I'm really grateful for that. Okay. So about a month ago, I was teaching an advanced level English conversation practice class, and the topic for our class was heroes. So together we talked about what makes a hero. How do you qualify as a hero? How many heroes are there in the world? What kind of job do you need to have in order to be a hero? And the class came to a collective conclusion that there are very few heroes in the world, because in order to be a hero, you need to either risk your life in order to save another person's life, or you need to devote all of your job or your time and your energy to significantly changing somebody's life. And okay, I can understand that, but at the time I felt a little disappointed, because lately I've been thinking about what it means to be a hero, and I've been thinking a lot about my cousin Daniel, who for me right now is kind of a hero, Okay. Daniel, okay. There have been a lot of stories in my family lately about Daniel and about his kindness. For example, one story that's really popular right now is about how he was in the living room or something, doing something on his own, and his mother was talking to another person about a student that she has. She's a teacher. She's an elementary school teacher. And she was talking about this student who's kind of a problem because he comes from a really poor background. His family is really impoverished, and he's really struggling in school because of some of the problems that this entails. And Daniel went up to his mother and he brought out $20 that he had just been given for his birthday. And he said, "You take it. You can give it to the poor kid. I don't need it." And this may not sound amazing, but it was. He was 4 years old. So I was always really impressed that a 4-year-old could do that, something that some people well into old age can't do. I use the word "was" when I talk about Daniel because about 3 months ago he passed away. Actually, he was killed in Sandy Hook Elementary, and he was 7. And he never did big things, big heroic acts, like run into a burning building and save somebody, or track down a serial killer, or rescue Lois Lane from a falling building. He never did any of these heroic acts because he never had the chance, I think. But he did lead a life of continually being kind to people in small ways. And I think that if more of us did that, maybe we would have more heroes. Maybe through that way we could become heroes. I know that it sounds like doing something small, such as holding the door for somebody, isn't exactly heroic. It takes very little effort to open the door, but to build your life around doing small acts, I think, and making that a habit can make you a hero. And I'll give you 3 reasons why it's worth doing and why it could be considered heroic. First of all, you never know how much a small act is going to affect somebody. You could, just by being nice to somebody, maybe that person isn't affected at all, but on the other hand, maybe it's the one thing that stops them from jumping in front of a BART train, you know? I mean, probably it wouldn't be either of those 2 extremes, it would be somewhere in the middle. Probably you would just make that person feel grateful and give them a slightly better day. For example, Daniel's bus driver was very grateful for Daniel because every day when he took the bus, he would give the bus driver a big hug, and then when he left the bus, he would give the bus driver another big hug. And I know it sounds corny because it's just a hug, right? But the bus driver apparently was really moved by that, and he expressed that at his funeral and had the honor of speaking at his funeral about how much that meant to him. But another reason is that people have very short memories, so maybe if you perform one big act, it can become forgotten little by little because of time. But if you do continual small acts, then people will always remember you as being this kind of person and having this kind of influence over their lives. I think that a lot of the people around Daniel remember him for the small acts that he did. The neighbors remember him because he used to always go out into the rain. When it rained, he would always go outside and rescue all the worms from drowning. At school, in our family, if anybody came over to the Bardens' house, everybody would remember him because he always insisted that other people have the last of something, the last food on the plate, the last bit of milk in the container. At school, his teachers remembered him because he was the kind of student who would talk to the lonely kid at the lunch table. So those are all meaningful things, I think. And finally, kindness is contagious. If you help somebody, they might help somebody else. And in turn, if somebody helps you, I think it's natural to feel the need to help another person. For example, my aunt helped me a long time ago when I was really struggling in school. I used to actually be really bad at school, and my aunt used to always sit me down and talk to me about the schoolwork, and she showed me exactly how to write a paper. She did this for 2 whole years, and it really helped me a lot. It helped me go to college, it helped me graduate, it helped me become a kind of academic person, actually. And now I try to reverse that by helping my partner who is really struggling in school because English is not his first language. So I've been trying to devote my time in that way. Because of Sandy Hook, there was a campaign that came about as a result called 26 Acts of Kindness. It was started by Ann Curry of NBC News, and she encourages people to perform 26 simple acts of kindness, one act every day. So something simple like, for example, some people have paid a parking ticket for a stranger. If you're online for the bathroom and the person behind you really has to go, you can just let them go. You can buy a cup of coffee for somebody. Maybe once a month you can buy breakfast for a homeless person that you see on the street. Something like that. It can be really small, really simple. And if you want more ideas about that, you can go to the Facebook page, and there are a whole list of ideas that you can draw from. So it's totally doable for all of us to commit at least one act of kindness per day. And if we commit one act of kindness per day, if all 7 billion people in the world do this, then we have 182 billion acts of kindness happening. And who knows what kind of a better world that will bring about. Who knows how many heroes will emerge from something like that, something enormous like that. So to sum up, if you ever find yourself in doubt of why to be kind, you never know how it's going to affect somebody. It could save somebody's life, it could just make somebody's day a little bit better. You'll always be remembered by people for these acts, and you will encourage people to act kind in turn. I would just like to end with a quote from the end of Daniel's eulogy, because I think that it's one that can inspire you if you ever feel in doubt. If you see something broken, fix it. If you can intervene and spare someone pain, do so. And if you have a moral obligation to speak out against what you feel needs to change, then stand up and speak. Thank you.
Wow, that was very inspirational. Like, I can't agree more that acts of kindness are contagious.
对，所谓做一点点的小的好事，可以影响到很多人，有可能不是今天，可能是明天或是后天。好，现在我们用1到2分钟来写下来我们对 Alison 的评估。
Our third speech for the night will be given by Ursula. the title of her speech is WTF am I doing? Showing up! Exclamation mark. This is her 5th project, and to evaluate her speech is Jessie. Jessie, if you wouldn't mind explaining how you'll be evaluating her.
So this is Ursula's 5th speech. This project is going to focus mainly on the body language. So the way you stand, the way you move around, gesture, facial expression, eye contact, and generally just how you how you move your body, how you speak with your body, not just words. So yeah, let's welcome Ursula.
The stage is yours.
Wow, getting on stage after Allison. I hope you extend the kindness to listen to my speech. What the am I doing? I'm showing up. I chose the title of this speech because I'm in the middle of an international move. So I'm like, I have no time to do a speech. What the hell am I going to do? And I think that I'm getting positive influences from many different angles. And I'm at a stage, I think it's really interesting that the title of the theme of the day is sort of spring forward. It's not even sort of in my situation because I'm contemplating, what the hell do I do about this? What the hell do I do about that? I'm in the final negotiations of a contract that's unlimited, and I will be granted a blue card visa in Germany, which allows me to stay there for a long time. So I thought, okay, I'm going to share my perspective about what does it mean when the world is like, okay, I'm sitting here, this is happening over here, I could turn around, it's still happening, and that's happening. I could turn around again, and this is happening, and that's happening, and that's happening. Oh shit, there's something to my right. And then there's something up here. And there's something, okay, there's the ground there. I could do something about that. So when you feel like your world is spinning, and you're not quite sure what to focus on, there's a lot of people who have felt the same way. So that's one of my main points, that many people, and inevitably all of you at some point in your lives have thought, WTF, about some situation. Some situations are larger than others, obviously. But that feeling is that everyone has that experience in its own flavors, and it will periodically show up in your lives. Another one I'd like to highlight about these types of situations is that you have the momentum forward. So you maybe haven't done something for a particular week, but you show up, and something happens to move you forward. I show up, if I would have sat at home and I thought, what am I doing? I haven't prepared my speech very well, and I have all this extra doubt. I would not have heard Allison's speech right now, which is the bomb. So co-creation is really another key that I'd like to highlight. I'm able to co-create some, put elements together from other people's speeches as well to highlight different aspects of what it means to do something spontaneously. And that can turn into some marvelous things. I was actually talking about body language with a client. She hadn't practiced, and she came into my office, and she said, well, I haven't done anything this week, and that's not necessarily uncommon sometimes with people's busy schedules, and they're all having their kind of WTF moments. And I said, okay, let's just, open your mouth, stand up, lower your shoulders. What are you going to do about your body language and your tight shoulders because you're sitting at a computer all day long? So we came in and we were able to use some of that spontaneity in our session, and that happens quite often. So if you're not sure about being super prepared in a situation, you have these WTF moments, just show up, because there's so many interesting things that can happen that would not happen otherwise. And there are things that come about without any planning. There's a lot of value in that as well. Not only that, people want you to succeed, as we've heard in this room. So that's another thing I want to talk about is when it's associated to feelings. When people say, I feel nervous, I feel like this is going to be difficult, I feel like I'm going crazy, that's an admission that people can relate to. So feelings, admitting your feelings about something is extremely helpful. So we've got momentum forward. Whatever that feeling is associated with that momentum forward, express it.
We've got co-creation. What's going to happen as we move forward to do A, B, or C, and what that might look like. It's not going to look like the same thing if we do everything by ourselves. And then feelings along the way. Like, what does it mean when you're kind of out in a world where it's not feeling so settled?